Good morning, Year 3, and welcome to your next English lesson. Today, we're going to be using quotes in a newspaper article. But first of all, like we normally do in class, I've got 4 words on the board, and I would like you to try and put those words into sentences if you can. And these words are shouted, sobbed, cried, and sighed. I'll just read them one more time. Shouted, sobbed, cried, and sighed. Can you put each of those words into a sentence? Pause the video. You can say them out loud, or if you can even write them down like we would do in class. So you can put those 4 words into sentences. Off you go. I decided to put mine into a sentence using some speech marks, which you may have done. I have written, "You shouted." "You cheated," shouted the boy. I said it wrong. "You cheated," shouted the boy. And I've remembered to use those speech marks, and I've even added an exclamation mark in just inside those speech marks. We will be using some speech marks today when we are writing our quote, which we'll come to in a minute. First of all, I thought we'd just quickly recap the features of a newspaper. We spoke about that at the beginning of our last lesson. How is a newspaper different to a normal storybook that you will read? Can you think of any of the differences that it has? I'll just show you one. This was the same one that I showed you last time, just as a reminder. Can you think of any ways that this newspaper article or a newspaper is different to a normal storybook that you might read? Have a think, and whilst you're thinking, you can pause the video and I'll add a few answers onto the board, and we'll see if you've remembered some of those from last time. I've written just a few things onto the board. I have written colour, because there's lots of colour, photographs, because a newspaper will contain photographs, not just pictures, headlines, like the big titles that we have at the top of each article, which some of you did in your work last lesson, captions, which is describing what is happening in the picture. Here we have a picture of a cricketer. This is Ben Stokes, and it does say Ben Stokes playing for England in February. So it's saying what the picture is showing, what the photograph is showing. And finally, columns, because a newspaper article is written in columns, going down, just like that. Well done if you remembered some of those things. Now today, we're going to be completing a newspaper article again, but this time we're adding in quotes. A newspaper article will often have a quote, which is what somebody that might have been there, that might have seen it, what had happened, might have said. So it's what somebody that was there at the time might have said. We'll do one together as an example. Let's imagine we're writing a newspaper article about Jack and the Beanstalk. And we're a newspaper journalist. We're going to write the story, and we have gone to speak to a neighbour of Jack. And we're going to write what they might say. So imagine the person that lives next door to Jack. They wake up and they see this enormous beanstalk outside. They may even see Jack climbing the beanstalk. We're going to write what that neighbour might have said. And I've written on the board, a neighbour of Jack said, and then we're going to finish this quote. This is a bit trickier because you almost have to imagine that you're that person now and you're writing what they might say. Have a go, and I'll put an example onto the board and we can see if we've written something similar maybe. Have a go. Can you write what a neighbour of Jack might have said? Well done, Year 3. What I have written, I'll read it for you. A neighbour of Jack said, "I was amazed when I saw the beanstalk. It went right up into the clouds." So we've just written exactly what that neighbour would have said using the word I. It's exactly the words they would have said. And we've also remembered to put speech marks to show that that's exactly what that person said. In your work today, this is a newspaper article about the Gruffalo, which is a story I'm sure you're all familiar with. And we're just going to write a quote for each of these characters in the story. The first one, in fact, I'll read the beginning of it for you as well. A strange creature was spotted in the woods early on Sunday morning. It was seen by 4 confused woodland animals who live in the woods. It's about the Gruffalo. And the very first quote is going to be from the snake. And it says on your sheet, a worried snake told us. A worried snake told us. And then you will write what that snake might have said. Have a think, see if you can think what quote you could write for the snake. Think about the exact words that that snake would say. And I'm going to add one to the board as well. Have a go, pause the video and see if you can think what that snake might say. And you can do it straight onto your sheet if you want to, or you can think about it and maybe you can just write it onto your sheet later. Well done, Year 3. I have written, a worried snake told us. I was very afraid. It looked really scary. I slid straight off to my house. And I've remembered my full stops, and I've remembered again to put my speech marks. Remember, every time you're writing a quote, you're going to have to remember those speech marks because you're writing exactly what that character is saying. So now you can complete the rest of the sheet. You're going to write a quote for each of these characters, and there's also one at the end, maybe from the police saying how they're investigating this. Maybe they're looking for the Gruffalo, and you can think what they might be saying. If you finish all of that, there is a space to add a picture. There's also a caption. Remember, in the caption, you write what the picture is showing, what the photograph is showing. And also you can add a headline again as well, like some of you did last time. If you finish all of that and you still have time, I have actually added a second newspaper article about Little Red Riding Hood, where you can almost write the whole article yourself. Don't expect everyone to do that. I just wanted to add something extra just in case somebody had time and they finished quickly. But remember, do make sure you keep checking your work, check that your writing makes sense, check that it's clear. If you know you need to be joining your writing, try to make sure you're joining your writing. I will be on Google Meet as always. If you have any questions, if you want to check any of your answers or maybe read one or two of your quotes to me, please do come onto Google Meet. And as I said, remember to keep thinking about your own targets for your writing. And once you have finished it, again, as always, if you can take a picture and email it to me, I can then get back to you and maybe discuss some things we did well and some more targets for next time. Thank you for watching again today. I look forward to seeing your work.